The Washington, D.C. City Council now considering a proposal to lower the voting age to 16, and they're not alone. Similar bills now floating around in Georgia and Minnesota to do just that. A Washington Examiner op-ed argues, quote, "It is difficult to find a comparably compelling reason for further change now. Would we also want 16-year-olds serving on juries or signing up for the military? I think not. If you look at student civic knowledge, you would hardly deem them highly qualified to start running in the public. So, should the voting age be changed? Here to debate, Democratic political analyst Rochelle Ritchie and GOP strategist Kimberly Klacik. Good to see you both.
Good morning.
Rochelle, what say you?
Well, I say absolutely that 16-year-olds should be allowed to vote. There have been tangible results as a result of young people interjecting themselves into changing the trajectory of our country. You had young people that were at the front lines of the civil rights movement, which led to the Voting Rights Act. You had young people that put pressure on government to conflict in Vietnam, and now you have young people in 2018 who are pushing for gun reform. I think many people are very encouraged by the voices of these young people, but I think that at some point we have to stop playing this game of how low can you go when it comes to the legal age to vote, because quite frankly, choosing the leader of the free world is much different than choosing your prom date.
That's a good point, Kimberly. This has been sparked in part by the Parkland tragedy down in Florida and some of those students going to Washington for that big march. What do you think about whether or not 16 is too young to vote?
So, Ed, I myself didn't realize I was conservative until I left home and I began absorbing the news not yet filtered by my parents. After I voted for President Trump, I had to delete my personal Facebook because I was bullied or harassed by my adult peers. So imagine being in high school and being bullied for the usual, your appearance, your weight, or maybe how much money your parents do or do not have. And now you add to that your choice of candidate. I think changing the age could put minors in harm's way. Now, Democrats like Nancy Pelosi, of course, they don't see a problem with changing the age because, like colleges, high schools push that liberal agenda. So what better way to capture Democratic votes than to manipulate the underdeveloped mind? And you have to keep in mind the Parkland students and anti-gun activists, they believe 18 is too young to purchase a gun. But if you're 16 and you vote for a pro-gun candidate, that candidate could ensure that 18 is just fine to purchase a gun. So similar to Obamacare, I don't think they thought this through.
Rochelle, a fair point and a fair question. Is this about the left saying, look, we can get 16-year-olds and they're much more likely to support Democrats, and all of a sudden we're mining a whole bunch of new votes for Democrats?
Well, I definitely think that that is a strategy that Democrats could use as far as pandering to 16-year-olds. I mean, I think this would be a really big concern because they would become one-issue voters, which is an issue in itself. But I think that we have to keep in mind 16-year-olds have been given adult-like responsibilities. They are able to drive a car. That's a huge responsibility. You're responsible for the lives of other people on the road. In some states, 16-year-olds are able to get married. And quite frankly, some of them are working full and part-time jobs, meaning they pay taxes, contributing to our society and putting money in the pockets of these politicians. So why silence their vote?
All right, let's get a last word from Kimberly.
Yeah, I mean, like we saw in that Washington Examiner article, only 23% of those that took the last round on the National Civics Test actually tested proficient or above. So in 2 years, I'm supposed to believe that a child basically can learn and comprehend the law, the Constitution, and the importance of good policy. I don't believe that. Yeah. I believe that, honestly, Americans are emotional right now. Each school shooting has been tragic and heartbreaking, but at the same time, we shouldn't change law or govern based on emotions. That's like going to the grocery store while hungry. It's a
Not a good
idea.
Yeah. Kimberly, Rochelle, good points all. We appreciate you coming in.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ed.